Welcome to the Facts That Matter. I'm Sabrina Wilson. Today, I want to share 4 facts with you about women in the workforce. First, I want to welcome Sabrina Wilson, industry expert in human resources. Welcome, Sabrina.
Thank you, Erin. It's a pleasure to be here and to talk about this exciting topic.
Glad to have you. Let's get to some facts. It's a fact that women make up 51% of the population, but make up only 8% of the CEOs for the Fortune 500. It's a fact that 55% of the nation's professionals overall are women. It's a fact that for every 100 men promoted to manager, only 86 women are promoted. It's a fact that women only submit an application for a job if they meet 100% of the qualifications compared to meeting 60% for men. So with men promoting at a faster rate than women, how do we get women understand that they are qualified even if they don't meet all of the qualifications?
I don't want to speculate about why women don't raise their hands, so I'll turn the responsibility a little to the company or the organization that we're in. I think a starting point could be looking at the job description and how it's posted and making it very clear what's required and what's just nice to have. And that way you don't feel like, oh, I can only apply because I don't have everything that's listed. So that might be one way an organization can change the fact that women don't always raise their hand. Another thing that I think we could do better as organizations is identify successors for roles before we need them. And take that time to create development plans, create development opportunities, tap women on the shoulder for projects or small things that they can do to start to gain some of those skills that are needed for that promotion. I think back to a time more than a decade ago where I was tapped on the shoulder and asked to go lead human resources for Latin America. And I was like, well, I had every excuse not to do it. Well, I haven't practiced my Spanish in 10 years. And so another thing an organization can do is what this leader did for me was, we'll get you a tutor. We'll get your Spanish skills brushed back up. And he just started to remove those excuses. And so I think as an organization, we sometimes need to do that for women, is tap them on the shoulder, ask them to go do something, stretch them in an assignment they haven't done before. Another thing that I think we should do as an organization, and especially as leaders, is identify talented people in the organization and be a coach, be a mentor, provide them visibility, do things to help them gain some confidence, gain some experiences, so when that promotion is posted or is available, that they feel ready. They feel ready, like they can raise their hand to take on that opportunity.
Yeah, I do think a lot of it is confidence. I know there's been job postings that I've seen that's like, oh, that would be cool. Oh, I don't have this, I don't have that. Okay, I'm not going to apply for that, but when I really could have done the job, because it's not always about skills, it's also about passion.
And potential.
And yes, and potential. And women tend to not see the potential that they have.
And I think that's where, as a leader, we should identify that potential and we should draw that out.
And I've had some leaders, one recently, that did kind of push me. And it's like, yeah, you can do this. I'm like, yeah. It's like, no, you can do it. And it gave me that push. And I got into it and I was like, ooh, I can do this. And I really like this. So
that actually gives me goosebumps, because I can think of times where leaders have done that to me and I thought, well, I'm not ready, or the experience I shared with you on the Latin America. Yeah. That was the most exciting year assignment that I had. It was amazing. And I wouldn't trade it for the world, but it took a leader recognizing that and pulling out that potential.
So sometimes, you just need to have that push off into the deep end with no floaties.
Exactly.
And you're gonna learn to swim one way or another, and then you realize, oh wait, yeah, I can do this, and it's
and that builds confidence.
Yes, it does. It gets your confidence up, and then you're excited about it, and you take it even further than what, it was even expected. So
absolutely.
It's awesome. So getting women in that confidence and pushing them off into things that they don't think they are, some of that is maybe some very senior leadership, like C-suite.
Yeah.
There's only 8% in the Fortune 500 of women that are CEOs, but we're more than half the population. What do we need to do to kind of get that a little bit more even?
Well, again, I'll focus on what organizations can do. And this is where I think it's so important that succession planning doesn't become a once-a-year event. You write down some names in some boxes and you put it in a drawer until next year when you pull it out and you revisit it. Robust succession planning, identifying people that have the potential to be in the C-suite, to be at that CEO level. You have to have robust development plans. You have to have opportunities for them to stretch, and assignments. You have to give them visibility. And so it takes a plan, and you have to work that plan. You cannot just put it into a drawer and hope that, when you need a successor, that name you wrote in the box is ready for it. It doesn't work that way. From a woman's perspective, one of the things that I would encourage women to do is to seek out opportunities. Raise your hand for projects, assignments, especially in areas of leadership. Maybe it's when you're starting out your career, you start with leading some interns, and then you start to raise your hand for other leadership type roles as you progress through the organization. I would also recommend that women seek out opportunities to serve on boards of nonprofits. That way you can get the feeling of what it's like to be at that executive level, to be responsible for a business. And it's in an area of nonprofits. I would say pick something you're passionate about. And that helps prepare you. And as you see how that works, it's not much different, except for now it's for profit, but same thing, as you get the same type of experiences. So I'd encourage women to seek out experiences within their organization or outside their organization.
I did. I've done some nonprofit leadership. My first one was Little League baseball.
Fun.
It's fun. Passionate about baseball. My son played, but there's a lot of passion when you get to youth sports, and that experience helped me navigate unhappy people and how to make it a positive experience. And it taught me to look at things a little bit differently, and maybe, hey, if we make this little tweak, and I've gone on to some other industry nonprofit boards, and just all that experience has helped me both with my job, and my job has helped me with that, and learn how to lead people and get the passion there and do it the right way.
Absolutely. And sometimes I think nonprofits are a little bit more difficult because they're volunteers.
They're all volunteers.
Right. But it's, like you said, great experience, and then you can apply that to your work life.
Oh, yeah. It's yeah. So our industry, the security industry, is not really considered a sexy or glamorous industry. And it's always been pretty male dominated. So how do we get women interested in the security industry and understand that it's not just about doors and locks? It's about safety and security and everything in a building that really matters to make sure, that you're safe when you're in the building, you're secure when you're in the building, you can get out if there's any, a fire or any other emergency hazard. So how do we get women into this industry? So
2 years ago, I didn't know anything about this industry. And you don't think about when you walk into a sporting event or you walk into a building that about the entrance and securing that way. Of course, we think about when we go to the airports, we've got to go through TSA, and you think about it from a negative standpoint, but you don't think about it from an industry, and that somebody is thinking through, how do I keep people safe? And if there's an emergency, how do I make sure that people can exit the building safely or the event safely or whatever it may be? And I think what we need to do as an industry is really tap into our purpose. I mean, what we do is we provide peace of mind. We allow people to travel with confidence freely through, whatever it is where we're creating those entrance systems and that safe environment. And I think women, and I think the generation that's entering the workforce now, they're driven by purpose. And so I would say we need to lead with our purpose. We need to communicate it. We need to be out there more. Social media, the sound bites. I think things like this, where you're educating people about the industry, are really important. And we need to be on campuses and attracting talent from the universities. Over half of the student population now are women. And we have a real opportunity to change the demographics of this industry.
Yeah, and that's kind of exciting. I teach in the industry, and it's always exciting when there's several women in my classes. In fact, some of the last classes that I taught in the last couple of weeks, last couple of months, have been almost half women. And that's very exciting, having been in this industry for a very long time and being one of the few. And now there's more, and we all help each other and engaged and understand it's not just about a lock. It's about keeping everything safe and simple and secure.
Absolutely.
So, what kind of things, we've talked about, some of the education. Is there anything else we can do to increase women's confidence to go after something new, something different that they hadn't done before?
So when I think about gaining confidence, I think you do that through having experiences, trying things, sometimes succeeding, sometimes failing, maybe adjusting. And so what I would encourage women to do is to have a plan. So what's your goal first? What's your goal? If you want to be a CEO, write that down. I want to be a CEO. So what's the plan to get there? And start to really think about what it takes to be a CEO. Well, you need experience as being a leader. You need experience in a particular industry. And you start to write down what you need for that. And I'll relate it to, we talked about baseball, so I will relate it to sports. So I'm a runner. And when you decide that I have a goal, like I'll give a real example, I want to run the Leadville Trail Marathon. Okay, so if that's my goal, what are some things that I need to plan to get that? Well, I need to have the right equipment, right? You have to have the right shoes. You have to have the right hydration pack. So you start to plan things out, but you also have to have the right training plan. And you have to make sure that you're working your training plan. You can't just have a plan and sit it on the desk. You have to do the miles. Well, Leadville starts at 10,000 feet, so I probably need to simulate the race, right? So I need to start running in altitude, and then it goes up to 13,000 feet. So you need to make sure that you can still run and operate in those type of things. Same for being a leader. So you start with goals, a plan, you work your plan. And in my case, I engaged a coach, somebody that had ran Leadville, had ran at high altitude. And that coach who had that experiences, I leveraged their experiences. And not that I replicated everything. You have to adapt things that work for you. Same for becoming a leader or becoming an executive or a CEO. You have to have people that are been there, done that as coaches, mentors, rely on their expertise. Where did they succeed? Where did they fail? What would they have done differently? And just making sure you're having those type of conversations. You also have to decide, what are you going to give up? Or what are you going to, maybe do a little bit differently? Well, for me, if I'm going to run a high altitude marathon, well, I need to practice at high altitude. So I decided I'm going to get up at 4 a.m. on a Saturday and drive into the mountains and run for, 5 or 6 hours. And so I'm pretty much deciding I'm going to give up my Saturdays. Well, it also meant that I also had to give up Friday night happy hour with my friends. So maybe now I move that to Sunday brunch. Or so you have to, with your plan, what are the adjustments that you're going to make sure that you can work your plan? And so I see becoming a leader, becoming a CEO, the same as you would do if you were going to run a marathon or play a baseball game or whatever those things are. There's things you have to do to prepare, and you have to adjust your plan. What if you get sick? Well, maybe that day is not a day where you do a long run. You adjust your plan, and you have to do that in your work life as well.
Wow, that's an amazing goal. I was in Denver last month, and we went up to Pikes Peak, which is 14,000 something.
Yes, I ran Pikes Peak to train.
there's no air up there.
Exactly.
There's none.
But if you're going to have an aggressive goal or a life goal, like being a CEO or being a trail marathon runner, you have to have a plan. You just don't wake up and become those things.
Yes, that plan. So I've been going after a certification for a few years, and it's the electrified hardware, so access control and all the nuts and bolts of that. And my plan has been, okay, I'm going to study, but I didn't really make the time for it. I let other things get in the way. In the last week or two, or the night before the exam, I'm trying to cram it in, and I have some mentors in that are like, okay, you're not, we'll help you, but and so this year I was doing some drawings. I was reading and studying, and I did some drawings, and I sent it to a friend, and I said, hey, look at this. And he's like, look, if you will commit, I will commit. So it's not every week because travel gets in the way sometimes, but almost every week he commits 2 hours to me, and it's the tail end of his work day, but it's after my work hours, and I'm committed to doing the homework that he's giving me and going through it. And I've made a tremendous amount of progress in that this year, and I'm ready to take the exam this
Your
summer.
confidence is up.
My confidence,
because you prepared.
Because I've prepared. I did the practice. I'm doing the practice. I'm getting ready, and I had a plan. And so, yeah, that makes all the difference in the world. A coworker that I have, that I've worked with in the past, says, make a plan, work the plan.
Absolutely agree with that.
Because you can make a plan, but if you don't work the plan,
it's just a piece of paper.
It's a piece of paper. So it really,
But your story brings up another great point is having people around you. And I've used this example of having your personal board of directors. So if you think about yourself as you would a company, every company has a board of directors. And so having a collection of people that can boost your confidence, give you that pep talk, in this case, spend time with you to help you prepare to get ready for that. Maybe find a way to strengthen some of your areas where you're not as strong. Like I always have somebody that I know I can go to talk about finance and understanding the business, and entering the security industry, somebody that helps me understand this industry. It's complex.
It is.
And so having different people in your life that you can draw on and help you be a better you is something I recommend for everyone to do. And this is a great example of where you have that person in your life.
Yeah, it's been great. And you mentioned working on your strengths. I've always tried to fix my weaknesses. And then I did the Strength Finder and learned what my strengths are. And I'm working to utilize my strengths instead of fixing my weaknesses. And that has also given me a lot of confidence. It's like, okay, this is what I'm good at. This is how I think. And the sales conference last year, we did an exercise of the 4 grids on where you are. And I didn't even finish saying, well, where do you think? And I'm like, oh, you're analytic. And I'm like, okay, everybody else knows me better than I do. And so I've started playing to those strengths, and it just, that has given me the confidence.
Yeah.
And it's inadvertently helps strengthen some of my weaknesses too.
Absolutely. I love hearing you say this. So I'm kind of the mastermind behind the sales conference, doing the Strengths Finder before that, because I have been a huge advocate of Gallup's Clifton Strengths and the Strengths Finder assessment for over a decade now. And I've seen it does help when people know themselves and know their strengths, and they find opportunities to play to that strengths. That also builds confidence. And you're absolutely right about if you focus on your weaknesses, there's only marginal improvement that you'll make. But if you leverage your strengths and you play to your strengths and you find ways just to minimize your weaknesses so they don't trip you up, or you find people in your life that can help balance. Where you're not as strong, you're going to have greater success. You're going to feel better about yourself. And we can do a whole episode about this, because I love this. And it's really about self-awareness and knowledge, and really being in a place where you can leverage your strengths.
So women need to have some mentors and some board of directors and learn what their strengths are. So taking all that for all that matters, what matters the most?
So what matters the most, I would say, is having a goal, having a plan to meet that goal, and then working that plan, just like you said. And for women, I would really recommend that they show up as their authentic self. If you are trying to be somebody that you're not, or you're trying to lead like a man, or lead like you think other people think you should, you won't be happy. And people won't follow. People want to follow an authentic leader. So I would say be authentic, but most importantly, enjoy the journey along the way.
Yeah, it is a fun journey when you leave that behind and you don't try and be someone you're not, and you just be yourself and take each step and learn along the way. I'm a lifelong learner. I love to learn things, and then I also like to share what I've learned with other people.
Which makes this avenue for you perfect.
Oh yes, I'm having a lot of fun, and I've learned a lot of different things about different aspects of the security industry that I hadn't really thought about before. I've seen it, but not really think about it. Now I'm like, oh, so it's causing me to look at some things a little bit differently. So, any final thoughts before we go?
I really enjoyed the time today, Erin, and I could talk about StrengthsFinder and developing people all day long, and I really appreciate the opportunity to spend some time with you today.
Well, I'm glad you could join us. Thank you. I'm Erin Wilson, and thanks for joining us on another discussion about the facts that matter. Remember, subscribe to this channel and hit that notification bell to be alerted to new Facts That Matter episodes.